Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Battleborn Digital Learning Podcast. My name is Kyle Anderson. I am one of the co-hosts of this show, and I am also a special education teacher at Clark High School in Las Vegas. And with me, per usual, is my partner in crime, Maggie Cox. Maggie, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. Maggie Cox, a CTE medical program teacher at Desert Pines High School in Las Vegas. And we are excited tonight. We're talking with another Nevada Digital Learning Collaborative member. We have Mike Lang with us tonight, and we're going to talk about, again, some of the best practices, the tools that are working, success strategies that we've seen in Nevada. And Mike is going to share a little bit with us about what he's done as a Nevada digital engineer this year. Mike, would you introduce yourself to our audience for a minute?
Of course. Mike Lang. I am one half of the Intelligent Hoodlums, but also a digital engineer here. This is my 17th year teaching at Lower Deering Elementary School. I'm the technology instructor there. Love what I do. I've got the brightest little kids in the world, manipulating all kind of incredible stuff at Deering, and just so happy to be on the podcast tonight.
Excellent. So, when you say 17 years at Deering Elementary, you've been there for the entire 17 years?
Oh, no. 17. This is my 17th year in education. I've been I started in Mississippi, went to Taiwan, and I've been here for the last 14 years.
Okay. So, yeah, when I heard that, I'm like, wow, to be at one school in the Clark County School District for 17 years straight, that would be a unicorn.
I've got two teachers. Our PE teacher and our music teacher have been, Mr. Barney's been there for 22 years. It's the only school he's ever taught at. And then Brown has been there for 19 years, and that's the only school she's taught at. So we do have two unicorns amongst our specialists, actually.
Yeah, that's very impressive. So I always thought going into education, I would have loved to have been one of those educators that was in one place for 30 years, but things come up and you make some changes in life, and doesn't work out that way for everybody. But there are ones. I know where I grew up, there are teachers that I had as a first year teacher back in 1997, and they're still there. And you've got teachers that recently retired that were there for 35 years and whatnot. So it does happen out there in the world.
Indeed.
Right.
Well, Mike, thanks for taking some time out to join us here tonight and talk a little bit about what you do, not only in education, but also with the DLC. So you mentioned that you started out in Mississippi and then went to Taiwan. So give us a little background with that. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that journey.
Oh, I never ever intended to be a teacher at all, and that was this is the most hilarious part of my life at this point. I had no intention to go into teaching, and I found a program, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll pay for your master's degree if you go and you teach in Pascagoula, Mississippi." So okay, cool, and changed my life. We survived Hurricane Katrina down there. I blew our little school up. It was really kind of showed you the depths of humanity and saw the earth people down there in Mississippi. And so I taught there 2 years, fourth grade, had the opportunity through the state of Indiana to go to Taiwan and teach English. And so I went over and with no EL background whatsoever, set up an EL program and learned a lot about PSYOP and HQSI as I was building this little program and stuff. So it was cool. And then I got homesick. So Vegas was, as Vegas tends to be, always in need of teachers. And it's a place that, I landed from there. And then I've jumped I've been at Deering for 6 years, but I've jumped schools every 2 years. So I started at Kirk L. Adams Elementary School, 4th and 5th grade. Then I went to West Prep, taught there for 2 years. From West Prep, I went to Kit Carson, or now it's totally forget the name of the school. They just renamed the school. For 2 years, I was a local DLC for 2 years, worked at CPD for a year, and then the last 6 at Deering doing technology. So been a nice little roller coaster ride.
Yeah, that is quite a story to have been there with Katrina and having to adapt the education environment during that local crisis there. That kind of prepared you for what came next here. as the whole world was facing a pandemic and we were trying to readjust education. I'm sure you could fall back on some of what you learned. And what we became a part of, the three of us, was Superintendent Ebert's idea that we would create a Nevada Digital Engineer group. It was almost like a think tank when we first got together. And we first got together, had some good PD and conversations, and then we sort of split into groups and worked on different projects all year. When you got into the group, what kind of projects were you working on?
So initially it was curriculum, and I think the curricula is an abstraction in a lot of ways because of the fact that everyone's classroom is different and everyone's book's going to be different, and everyone's we say interpret the standards, but interpretation by its definition means you're looking at it from a particular perspective, and your perspective may not be my perspective, all the time, right? So I ended up moving from curricula to best practices eventually. And my partner in crime, Webbs, and I kind of did some podcasting and stuff, and played around with stuff, and it kind of freed me up to interpret things, to use that word again, a little bit more loosely in terms of tools and strategies and stratagems you might want to be familiar with if you were a teacher during the pandemic. So also kind of just making sure that I was available for all the conferences and stuff, the two conferences we had this year as DLCs as well, and just to be around. I think that was the other thing that was cool about the DLCs, was just having individuals who perhaps had the same motivations as you, to be able to kick ideas off of, to say, hey, what do you think about this, or look at somebody else's work and collaborate. I thought that was a great thing as well.
That was really my favorite part about being part of this group, was just being connected to other educators, like you said, like-minded. We were all really focused on, how do we successfully help other teachers? We were working on putting things all in one place. So now we have the NV Digital Learning website, where a lot of this content has gone to, so that hopefully, we can continue to provide support. Like you said, we had 2 conferences, and you are you've been at many conferences. That's really how I met you, probably 5-6 years ago. Like you said, you've been presenting a lot, you do a lot of professional development. So it really came naturally to you to be part of this group and to work with that PD. So we did 2 conferences for Nevada Digital Learning Collaborative. I don't think there's any plans to do those in the summer. I think we're looking at maybe some book studies through that group, but there are other opportunities coming up. And I wanted you to tell us a little bit about the Intelligent Hoodlums, which you mentioned is a group that you had created because you're doing some PD in the summer.
Well, I mean, back when we were digital learning coaches locally, so the schools had digital learning coaches about 2.5 years or so. And I was one of the original, 13 of us, 12 of us, something like that. And just going through the district, we all had something like 18 schools in pairs, and it was like a lot of work and whatnot. And you would go through schools and just see that the infrastructure wasn't there generally. It wasn't for lack of desire. It was just because resources weren't trickling down to school level, or talent, just people to show people how to do certain things that was also not available, right? So ended up working at William Snyder Elementary, which is on what is that? Desert Inn becomes whatever. Totally forget. My streets are totally leaving me right now. Anyway, go in. I see this teacher, and she's just doing all this crazy stuff in the classroom and whatnot. And I come in, I introduce myself, and I'm like, oh my God, this person hates my guts. And eventually we become friendly, I guess, and we started doing lunch and learns at Snyder. And I was like, this person's really good. She's really good at what she does. And so there became an opening in DLCs, and she became a DLC. So Weber and I really kind of hit it off. And I was driving to Harris Elementary School going out 95 one day, and I just called her up and said, look, I just want to do something. Like, I want to do something with just wacky stuff. Are you down? She was like, oh yeah, yeah, let's do it. So That was the genesis of the Intelligent Hoodlums, and the name came from one of my favorite rappers from when I was a kid. Tragedy Gaddafi had an album called Intelligent Hoodlums, so it's an homage to him. But it became a situation where we kind of wanted to look at a lot of the strategies and stuff in a offbeat way. Like, we really aren't straight shooters in that way where everything's kind of like nice and sanitized. And we kind of we were both kind of wanting to get out of the box that professional learning, unfortunately, is often placed in. So that was 2014, 2021. Now we kind of just we hang around, we do conferences all over the place. We run conferences behind the scenes. We work with Q a lot to do their conferences and whatnot. So lots of insanity and just dreaming up weird stuff to do and publishing it and giving it to people and whatnot. So the Hoodlums have been it's been the crown jewel of my educational career, I guess. That's what it would be.
Yeah.
Well, and I've had interactions with you for several years as well. And I always love seeing your session titles and descriptions, just because, like you said, they're not just sanitized, like cookie cutter kind of sessions. They have a lot of, there's a lot of hip hop themes I've noticed before. And if I'm not mistaken, I feel like there was one that kind of had like a Mortal Kombat finish 'em theme to it. It was one about finishing off lessons, right?
Yeah. So, the thing, I guess what I always hated when I was a younger teacher was walking in and the death by PowerPoint. And I think everyone hates that, but we don't encourage teachers to bury that and go into a different direction, because I think it threatens what the archetype of professional learning is, unfortunately. And that's just not a local knock. That's kind of national. When you go to national conferences, the same thing. How to do closed reading. And you're like, all right, I don't want to go to a conference like that. There's nothing sexy about that, right? So it's stuff that we like. So it's not even like, let's be weird it's like, I play Mortal Kombat. I play video games. I listen to a lot of music. Their teachers are humans too. They also do these things. Why not give it to them in a language that they're going to understand, and not just the educational jargon that we're bombarded with, constantly on a daily basis. And I think by trying to connect systems that are not educational to the educational process, I think it allows us to simplify a lot of the things that hopefully should be going on in classrooms.
That is something I was going to mention that I've always noticed about your sessions is you do simplify sometimes difficult concepts. And I'm always impressed. I'm a high school teacher, and I'm impressed at the way that you talk about educating the elementary students. And, you're giving them concepts that are difficult. I do design thinking with high school. You're doing it at an elementary level, and you've broken it down in a way that they're understanding it. And so sometimes I'm just really impressed with the concepts, and I'm grateful that you have that high expectation of your learners. They're capable of it, and I think it's great to see that modeled, at these PD sessions. And I think that's one of the things that we saw this year. The three of us, we've been at these conferences, we've been embracing technology for a while. But we had some hesitancy by some of the other teachers. And this year, that was one of the positives, was everyone was pushed to, we're using this online content. Some schools were requiring, certain components. And so it really made everybody step up. So I'm grateful for that. What were you seeing as you were supporting teachers? How was that process for you?
It was interesting. So in March, the cool thing was, again, we kind of predicted that August wasn't going to be a normal August, right? And so what we did was we started to have PD after school every day, and just, hey, let's start preparing for August. Here are very small changes we can deal with. Here are templates you can use. Here are tools you might be interested in. These are strategies you might want to get down with. and really encouraging people to not make this this incredible overnight change, but make glacial change, right? Make this 1% type change so that even if you're not not perfectly ready in August, you were more ready in August than you were in March. And so I think, again, it's most of the teachers that I've met this year, who even those who struggled with the online component, wasn't struggling because of lack of desire. It wasn't the lack of desire that caused them to have some issues. It was more just the time, right? We did not have time to prepare for August adequately. And so one of the things that I really noticed about the teachers who were successful, those were the teachers that collaborated as grade levels or across town, or had a philosophy that allowed them not to do this individually. I think hopefully that is one of the lessons we've learned from the pandemic, that I think as much as is heaped into that the study and the research of the teacher being the change, the catalyst in the classroom, whatnot. I think a lot of that is misinterpreted, because I think teachers together can do a lot more change than one teacher in a room with a locked door. I think getting away from that model is going to benefit education and benefit students, frankly, because then you're not having to be a savant in everything, right? I can go and say, I don't need to know how to do, and this is something I use with Webbs and I all the time. Webbs is a professional software developer. I don't need to learn how to code because I have her. I don't waste my time dealing with that. I don't have to do that. I can go and do other pursuits, and then we can come together like Voltron to do what we need to do. So I think a lot of this, a lot of the expectations of teachers, and I continue to hear this portrayed on Twitter, this teacher tired and this and that. And instead of us sitting back and saying, why is this a thing? Why is this normalized? How can we avoid having this teacher tired thing still be a deal by ensuring that teachers, you don't have to be good at everything. I don't have to do that. I know that this teacher does this very well. Why don't I get with that teacher and have that person design this aspect of what we're dealing with, rather than me having to, again, be Jesus Christ of a classroom. And that's the most frustrating thing that has come out of this pandemic, because we still have not learned that lesson. I don't think that we still have people who are going to go into August with I'm going to close my door, and then my little kingdom will be here, and we're going to have this frustration cycle start all over again, especially, down that we're going to be starting school August the 9th. Like, we have no turnaround really in terms of just being able to rest up, build lessons that are going to be dynamic, given that what we've learned. So that is my biggest kind of worry, that August is going to it's going to cause the frustration cycle all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think what's going to contribute to that as well is that this year, so many people are working the summer school session through the end of June. Absolutely. And summer school is not necessarily a time for dynamic learning and innovative ideas outside the box to try something. It's going to be a lot of, I don't necessarily know if there's going to be paperwork because with COVID restrictions still or whatnot, but I feel it's going to be a lot of sit and get, and you're going to have teachers work through the end of June, take 3 weeks off, and then we're right back to it. And Absolutely. That's going to contribute to that as well, I fear. Absolutely.
I would 150% co-sign that, because we have a lot of people, unfortunately, who have this misguided notion, in my opinion, that teachers are going to do PD in July. And I was like, nah, I think people are going to be in the Bahamas in July. They're going to throw computers into the water, and they're going to laugh, and they're going to come back August the 4th, and no one's going to know what way is up. Add to that the amount of administrative turnover. So you have brand new administrators in buildings with teachers who are not, that's going to be a recipe for not fun times.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're speaking obviously from the Clark County School District perspective, and I'm assuming it's going to be very similar in the other districts in Nevada as well, rural and urban, like Washoe up north. It's going to be a lot of the same things. So, which hopefully the time that people do get off this summer, they use that to rest and recover a little bit. And then with the little bit of time they have left, figure some things out to maybe try something new next year. Because again, we've been doing this for over a year now, and we had to do things outside the box. I fear that people are just going to try to revert back to what it was before. And that's taking 3 steps back for the steps that we've taken forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't want to lose what we got. And what we got this year was devices in every child's hands. That was something that had been a barrier for a while. So I think we can keep that. I hope that administration understands the necessity. I think we've seen a lot of support for that, from the state level. I think that's going to continue, right? So now I think the most important thing is some time off, some reflection time and some rest. I am concerned not only about the teachers working this summer, but our students. I think some of them really need some time off. I was teaching high school where a lot of my students were not only trying to do their coursework, but helping siblings. And so I've suggested that most of them, as long as they are at a passing point, that they need to take that time as well. So we'll see. I'm hearing mixed messages in CCSD. Some schools are talking about just summer, the summer extension being more geared towards fun, kind of creative things. And then some schools are really working on credit retrieval. So I think the experience will be different. I think we might learn some things. Again, I'm not sure how this is going to go, but there was more funding for the summer piece because of what happened. I don't think more time in the classroom is necessarily going to fix, what happened this year. I think a lot of kids pushed through, basically, and I think as teachers too, we really pushed from March to March. And I think, people are tired now. So I do hope that teachers will take some time to rest, maybe listen to these podcasts while they are, sitting on the beach for a while and just think about things. It might be a good time for a book study, but I think we do need some reflection time. So hopefully people will take a little bit. Now I'm planning a conference for July, guys. So you're making me feel bad, but
if somebody asked me to present in July, I was like, are you serious? Like, dude, like it's been a nonstop hustling. And, June, I'm going to work the summer school deal just because ours is going to be in Richmond, give kids an opportunity to come and, kind of experience things like that. But once June the 30th hits, my brain is getting shut off, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna veg. And I think the kind of to what you were saying, Maggie, I think there has to be a situation in which we re-examine the system to stop again. And I've said this to multiple teachers. Teaching to me is dead. There's no such thing as teachers anymore. It's not necessary anymore because Google exists. Generally, I can go on YouTube and learn anything my teacher's going to teach. There's something on you, somebody who's far more qualified than myself that can teach you how to do that far better than I can. That's not my job. My job is to design and invent. And if I'm not a designer and inventor that leads you to these places where, I can use Google in order to help figure out how this problem works or to do this. Now it's less Mr. Lang has to know every little thing about every little thing and more of how do I guide this kid with this problem in order to understand how certain things work. Okay, got you, right? So I think the system needs to be reevaluated. I also think that it should not be up to the individual in a classroom to necessarily build things. I mean, we have Canvas. Canvas allows me to take a module that somebody else built and put it inside of my Canvas course in rock and roll, right? Fourth grade, ideally, in Summerlin isn't different than fourth grade in East Vegas, fourth grade in Washoe. They're all the same Nevada standards, supposedly, right? So in theory, one could build these things. One could take highly qualified, highly talented teachers in this area and say, we're going to pluck you from this school for the year. Well, whatever happens at your school site, I want you to build this course. What does this course look like? And therefore, push that to everybody who teaches CTE or whatever. Here's the course that Mackie designed. You don't have to worry about that piece of it. What you're going to do is you're going to do the best that you can on that day to day, but then have kids be able to asynchronously go at their own pace to get the credits in this vetted course that's going to make sure everybody knows what they need to do by the end of the course. I think we really need to reinvent how we're doing stuff because people, like you say, are tired, and we're going to go in August. You're going to have tired people, even more tired and frustrated because I was tired and frustrated even before I started in August, right? So it's just, and then again, think about the number of things, and just speaking as a Clark County School District teacher, how many things you're going to be inundated with on August the 4th. that brand new this and that and this other thing and the videos and this, you're not going to have time to sit down and actually, you know, do anything powerfully and outside the box, as Kyle's kind of said.
Yeah. I do hope that we move a little bit closer to more student-centered sort of discussions.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, like you said, our PD at the beginning of the year was really, I mean, we had to do a sit and get as well. A lot of our training was like, okay, watch this video. We didn't get to try things. We didn't get to discuss in groups at our school sites or anything like that, because we were all separated. So I think, you know, now as we move closer, once hopefully we get back to our school site, we get in those PLCs, that time can be spent more. How do we create this as a student-centered, you know, experience? Like you said, I mean, we're really facilitators. That's really the term I prefer to use, especially in high school. Yeah, we got to teach them how to research appropriately and these kind of things, and we can guide you, but there's a million problems that haven't been answered. And sometimes those are the questions that we're talking about. And I teach a medical program. So just watching this year, how many questions did we have? And, you know, different things solved in different ways. I had so many examples to talk about. I mean, basically, you know, a couple of my classes were just discussion because that was more relevant. So it's tricky. I think that was part of what, you know, Superintendent Ebert said, this is going to be a process. So she created this group to start the process. I think what you said is absolutely ideal. I wish, like as a content expert, I wish I could get with the super techie person that can do all that code. Like you said, I need a friend to do that and just create all those pieces. Because for me at the beginning of the year, that was the hardest part. I was looking at 3 separate classes, and I can't build all the content for all of those. So I built a few pieces, you know, I shared those pieces that I had. A few other teachers had pieces. We were kind of piecing things together. I was fortunate, there's an online program that my district was able to purchase for me to fill in some of the gaps. And I felt confident in that created content, but you can't possibly create all the content, you know, relevant enough that first year. So it was very challenging. I think this reflection time will give people a little bit better chance to take what was good and then hopefully work with their team to get some more content.
Facts.
And speaking of reflection and collaboration and everything, Mike, you are active on social media. Where can listeners connect with you to interact with you up until July 1st?
You can always at Trust a Hoodlum is our Twitter handle for the Intelligent Hoodlums. I am Chocolate Teacher. Chocolate spelled very creatively. I always have to think about it. CHLTE teacher. I mean, I'm not a big social media person. I mean, especially Twitter. Twitter kind of depresses me a lot of times. Like it's really interesting place. I'm more of an Instagram person. I like taking pictures, just saying, hey, this is the rap album I'm listening to today. All right, cool. It's out in the world. Twitter, I feel like you have to, you really have to, like, you either embrace it and you love it or you don't. I don't think there's a little middle ground with Twitter. Like I don't tweet very often. I'll tweet, you know, once a week, maybe once every couple of weeks. So Trust a Hoodlum Webs runs that. So that's generally if stuff pops off, that's there. We're also on Facebook, the Intelligent Hoodlums on Facebook, where we tend to do a lot of stuff. We do a show 4 times a month, kind of just everything for this summer is going to be Canvas related and kind of looking at allowing you to use strategies, really focusing on products and making sure kids are builders of things. Because I think that's the other thing that's really frustrating to me, to have kids, the worksheet thing and stuff is so like 1985. And like, you know, I don't really care that you can read, kid, unless you can read to solve problems. I don't really care you can do math unless you can do math to solve problems. Doing math in a vacuum, reading in a vacuum is a kind of worthless talent in my opinion. But that's why that design thinking is so appealing. That's why, you know, I'm a Phil Schlechte, you know, acolyte, you know, that whole work in the work idea I think is really powerful. especially given the circumstances now that, again, you have kids who literally are masters of the internet. They're masters of YouTube. They're masters of, of streaming. I mean, we got kids who stream their video games. I got a couple of second graders who are TikTok phenoms, 15,000 followers on TikTok and stuff. So you have kids who have talents that, and that's where, Maggie kind of mentioned before we started recording about the learning loss thing. It wasn't the learning loss. We have kids who redefine what learning was, and that perhaps threatens the old system in terms of, we got people that don't like TikTok. How genius is that product where you have 60 seconds to explain? That's all you have. You have 60 seconds. You have an elevator pitch you have to make to me before I click and go to the next video and say, that's boring, go to the next thing. How do you keep my attention for those 60 seconds? That is brilliant. And I mean, it's just a great tactic to use for everything. Hey, you got 60 seconds to explain mRNA vaccines. That's all you got. Condense it down to 60 seconds. And it goes to that Einstein deal, right? Where if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't really understand it. So I really think that there are teachers that are paying attention right now. They're going to do amazing things next year because they're going to minimize themselves and maximize their students and not have a lot of those stresses. But I do think that unfortunately our system is built for the factory. We want the factory workers making widgets. We don't want them thinking of how to fix the factory.
We're getting there though. We're working on it. Career Tech Ed is my thing. We are working on it.
I mean, it's the reason why I hang out in K-5 kindergarten. The kindergartners are as close to geniuses as anybody ever gets. Unfortunately,
they're curious and creative. I love that group. So like you said, this year especially, we worked on creating content. So I had kids doing Adobe Spark. We used that quite a bit this year for assignments. And our class Instagram has a lot more followers because we would take that content and we would put some on. And by the second semester, I wasn't posting on that Instagram. The students were posting on the Instagram. So it is a great way, and it's a great way to connect them. And I love utilizing, those pieces. So if you want to find me on social media, I'm also on Twitter, Instagram. You can find me at all the places, Maggie J. Cox, and I would love to connect with more teachers. Mike, it's been such a joy to have you. You are such an asset here in Clark County School District, and I wanted to say thank you, for being on. Congratulations on your recent award. You got Heart of Education here in Clark County. It's a lovely honor, and we're really pleased to have you as part of this Nevada Digital Learning Collaborative. And Kyle, why don't you tell us, where are we going to find all this information for Nevada Digital Learning?
Well, you can follow the Nevada Department of Education on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and you can find some great things that are going on all those platforms using hashtags NVDLC, NV Digital Learning, and NV Digital Engineers. Nevada Department of Ed also has a YouTube channel. These are all linked in the show notes. You can listen to the show on your favorite podcast app like Anchor, Apple, Spotify, and more. We post episodes on the first and third Mondays of the month. And then you can find the work that Mike has created over the months and also other digital engineers at nvdigitallearning.org.
Excellent. And we will find you on Twitter as well, right, Kyle?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Anderson EdTech. And then I have a blog, andersonedtech.net, that you can check out. And then also my book, To the Edge, Successes and Failures Through Risk Taking. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and through my publisher, EduMatch Publishing.
Oh, shout outs to Sarah, Dr. Thomas. I forgot she
Dr. Thomas, yes.
Indeed. Shout out to Sarah, man. Big
yes, shout. Indeed. So excellent human being right there. So,
indeed.
And listeners, we thank you as always for taking some time out of your day to collaborate and learn with us. And until next time around, have a good one.